Hello and welcome to ChriSTEAM. Trees just like this. And if you're new to the channel, all of my links are in the description below this video, and be sure to go check out the welcome video that I made to learn about me and my channel. This is the 5th weekly live draw with me, so if you'd like to see the other ones, there's a playlist on my channel. So like I said, we're going to be drawing this today. And to do this, all you're going to need is some white paper, or you can use construction paper, some paper, and then you'll want some writing utensils. I'm going to be using colored pencils like these, but crayons will work just fine. Markers, whatever you have on hand will work really great. So you might want to think about a theme for your tree. So for this one, I did it sort of like a summer or spring apple tree with lots of green leaves and some apples that were red. But you could do a rainbow tree. You could do a fall tree and have lots of and reds and yellows. You could do a summer tree, apple blossoms or cherry blossoms, whatever you'd like to do. This is your little tree and you can do whatever you'd like with it. So I'm going to set that one aside and get a blank piece of paper. All right, and we'll zoom right in on that so you all can see it. Perfect. So to start, I'm just going to be taking my regular pencil and drawing a tree. Just draw one curve up and a curve just like that. So you kind of have some roots, and then it kind of forms into a trunk. And then from here, you just want to kind of extend the branches out. And if you want to stop it and then continue so that it gets thinner and thinner as you go up the tree, you can do just that. And remember that these are going to be covered once we add all of the leaves. So don't stress too much if they're not perfect. It's all good, and your tree will end up looking beautiful no matter what. You're also not limited to the branches that you make for yourself. So once you start adding leaves, you can kind of make the leaves go wherever you'd like. You can add branches afterwards. This is really a artist choice craft, and there's so many opportunities while you're doing this if you make any mistakes. So don't worry. I would recommend having your branches extend all the way to the top of the paper. That way you don't have just leaves at the top, because you obviously need to have branches in order to have the leaves. So even if they're just very, very thin ones close to the top, I would still have them there just to kind of ground all of your leaves in some way, shape, or form. And you can do this in a couple different kind of ways. You can start by coloring your entire tree brown. For this morning, when I was making this one, I actually did a bunch of leaves, and then I was like, oh, I kind of want to color it in brown. So I actually did it brown afterwards, which kind of made some interesting designs in there. And then I went back and added in more leaves on top, so it got more of a layered effect. So I think today I'll try something a little bit different, and I'll color it brown first. And if you are watching this live, I am here and I will answer any and all of your questions if you put them in the chat as soon as I can. And for this, I'm just doing a very simple tree, not worrying too much about the roots of it, but if you would like, you could make this tree be on a hill. You can put a fence near it. You can put a little bench. You can put a little hole for a little owl in there, whatever you'd like to do to make this tree, kind of like customize it to be your own tree. I'm going to focus on the leaves today. And when you get to that point where you have kind of a break in the tree, you might want to kind of jump over it. That way that your tree branches have strokes if you're coloring with marker or colored pencil, all going in the same direction. So you can kind of see that this goes like this. If I were to color it this way, it would look much different. So since I'm coloring it this way, you want the tree to kind of flow upwards, and you can even add some darker lines back into it afterwards, and you can go back in and just add some more texture to your tree. It makes it look very fun and interesting. And then you can go back to this one and color it the right way. Well, not necessarily the right way, sorry, but more like the same direction that the tree is going. Going up, up, and up. And remember, these are supposed to be abstract trees, so do not worry if they look really weird. I think my tree looks very interesting at this point. Definitely not your typical tree, but it has character, and I'm kind of liking it, so we're just going to keep going with it. You can also do this art in black and white, and that will kind of make the texture of your tree pop, because the viewer wouldn't be distracted or anything with the color choices that you made. So if you just had a pencil on hand, you can do this, the trunk and stuff kind of darker, and then have some lighter colored leaves, whatever you want to do with whatever materials you have. And if you wanted to focus on just the branches today, you could make some very, very detailed branches and make it kind of a winter tree and not add any leaves at the end. Kind of whatever mood you're in on whatever day you're doing this, just go with it. Don't think too much about it, because this is just supposed to be relaxing and just enjoying some time to yourself to color. All right, so once you have your entire tree all nice and colored, we're going to start adding in some leaves. So I think I'll do mine in green, and I won't be needing those anymore. All right, so I have a few different green colors. Save the red for later. And I actually have a blue as well. This is kind of it's an aqua green. Okay. So that kind of adds more character to it, and you can see in this tree, you don't really notice that there's blue in there, but it kind of adds more character to the leaves, and it makes it more interesting to look at, because it's not all just the same few shades of green, because I only have this many greens. So if you want it to look like a very detailed tree, you can start adding some blues. And we can even add a blue like this one, sky blue. So I'm just going to start with my dark green and just make a little curl. If I can get this centered on the camera. There we go. So for here, I'm just doing some different spirals. You can also do, if you would like, I'll show you a few different patterns you can do. So let me just sketch out a tree. Let's say you have your tree. All right. So you can do the spiral just like that. And if you start on the inside and work your way out, it gives you more control of how big or small you want the leaf to be. You can also do little kind of the classic leaf, just like so. That has a very nice and natural look to your tree. Just like that. You can do a combination of these. You can do some very wacky shapes, like you could do some rectangles and circles and just kind of have fun and make it. This would be really cool if you were doing a rainbow tree. You can kind of have all of these different colored, interesting shapes. So those are kind of all of your different options. If you have any more, I would love to hear about them. So you can put them in the comments below or in the chat. But for today, I think I will stick with doing the little swirls. I would suggest pushing harder on some of yours, making some of them smaller and some of them larger. That way it adds more different colors to your tree. So you can't quite see those, but they're still there and they're going to add more layers to the tree, which is what we really want, because if you look at a tree, it's not two-dimensional. It has many, many, many layers of leaves and many branches kind of just intertwining with each other. So you want to kind of make that effect by having different colors, different shades, different darknesses and lightnesses of your colored pencil or crayon or marker. And if you're working with marker, you can just use different size markers to get this effect. That would actually be really interesting. If you had, like, let's see, I have crayons over here. I can do, hold on, let me grab one. These are kind of two different sizes. This one's a lot bigger if I use this end, and this one's a bit smaller. There we go, now you can see it. All right, so if I were to do it with these, you would get two different kinds of effects, and I'll show you on this piece of paper again. So this one would get you a much smaller design, whereas if you did this one, big as my crayon, you would get a much bigger effect, kind of a thicker line versus a thinner one. So you might want to play around with the different textures and sizes of your shapes. That's what's so great about these projects, is that there's so much artist choice in them, so you can really do whatever you'd like. If you want to have a blue-leaved tree, you can have a blue-leaved tree. No one's judging. It's art. It's the one thing about art. One thing that might be kind of fun to do if you have if you're staying with a big family at this time is you can have everyone kind of in their own space draw a tree, all with the same intention to do it very abstract, and then you bring them all together and you see just how different they are. So everyone's imagination goes different places when they're told something, and doing something abstract really shows that. I'm kind of starting by just getting some pretty similarly sized swirls on my paper. They're all kind of medium big. And then I can go in later and fill in some smaller shapes in between. You can also play around with how thick or how close together you would like your shapes to be. So you can do one that's very, very close, where all of the swirls are very, very close together. And this is only if you're doing the swirl pattern. If you're doing these, then you can do whatever you'd like. You can make them very, very thin. You can make them really big, whatever you'd like to do. But if you're doing the swirls, you can do that. You can also do this kind of a more space in between versus this little space in between. That's all up to you. And it's okay if some of your leaves come off of your tree branches a little bit, because that'll make it seem like there are some thinner branches in between all of the bigger branches on your tree. If you'd like, you can draw them in, but I think I'm just going to leave mine just like this and let the trees kind of speak for themselves and say, yeah, there's a branch there, you just can't quite see it. So for my tree, I'm kind of doing a scattered look where I have all the colors kind of scattered all over the place. But you can also do kind of an ombre tree where you might have darker blues to a light green going up at the top. So you do dark blue, light blue, kind of a darker green, a lighter green, and you can even fade it into yellow. You can do whatever you'd like. And if you're doing an autumn tree, then you would have kind of some, let's see if I can find some colors. You could have some neon pinks, that would make it very interesting. Some oranges and yellow and kind of a darker pink. I'm trying to find red. Here we go. All right, so if you're doing a autumn tree, let me see if I can get this in the frame. There we go. There's your tree. And if you're doing kind of some autumn colors, these are very bright colors to work with, which can be really fun. So once you've filled in the top of your tree, maybe a bit more than what I've done, you can go back in and add some leaves kind of falling, just like that, just tumbling down to the ground. And you can even put a little pile down at the bottom of the tree and to add some more character and emphasizes that it's autumn. If you have a winter tree and you were focusing on kind of the branches of the tree, then you might want to do some snow at the bottom, which you can do some blue. You can use white and then shade it. If you're working on a black piece of paper, actually that would look very cool. You can use some white crayon. And I love seeing all of your creations that you guys make. So if you'd like, you can tag me on Instagram or share them with me on Twitter, and I will love to see them. They really make my day because you all are so creative. And it's very interesting to see when you're working with art, everyone has a different take on something, and no two artists are exactly the same. So if you look at everyone's art, then you can see just a whole world of character and just see that how different everyone is. In a good way, a very, very good way. You can stop at any point coloring in your trees with leaves. If you wanted to have more of a full tree, then obviously you would keep going and you can overlap them. Don't be afraid. There's nothing wrong you can do. You can make some that are very, very big. Similar to doing kind of an ombre effect, you could do bigger leaves down at the bottom with some bigger swirls and then kind of make them smaller and smaller and smaller as you get to the top. And I found that some of these lighter colors, this is kind of a neon lime green. These work really well for if you wanted to add some leaf colors in between your branches and kind of not have them really connected, because it makes it seem like there are leaves there, but it's not a very aggressive dark color. start getting happier with your amount of leaves, you can kind of adding in some tinier ones to kind of add some more characters and, like we were saying earlier, some layers to your tree. These can even just be little circles that you kind of throw in here and there. This art piece would also work really, really well if you wanted to try to challenge one of your friends to say that you can draw with your eyes closed. Because no matter what you do, it'll look beautiful. So you can just close your eyes and put circles everywhere. And one tip that I have for once you get to this stage is, towards the beginning, you might want to start with the middle of one and kind of work your way outwards. That way you can control the size. So I could have stopped right here. I could have stopped right there. I decided to stop right there. So you have more options of how big your leaf is. Whereas once you get to the part where you're trying to fill them in, you might want to start on the outside and then work your way in, because then you'll get a more concentrated leaf, as opposed to one of these where you don't know where to stop and then you can keep going and it might become too big for you. So you just find the space that you want to put one in, work from the outside in. Then you'll get a more concentrated leaf, just like that. And if you guys have any suggestions that you found while you've been doing this, feel free to comment them in the chat, or if you're watching this after it's live, the comment section. That's a great way to learn is from other artists. So I think I'm pretty happy with how many leaves I have, because I can still kind of see the branches, but it definitely looks very abstract and full of leaves. So now here's another part that you can do. I'm going to zoom out so you can see my whole tree. All right, so you can go back in with some darker colors. So you can use black, you can use your pencil, you can go back to using brown. And for this part, you can add some more character to your tree, kind of more like the bark of it. And you just want to be very quick with these strokes, and don't do them too dark, but don't do them too light. You want them to show up. You want your tree to have some character, but you can always make it darker. So if I want that line to be a bit darker, I can kind of go back in and add more lines on top of it. And if you ever don't like something that you've done, you can always go back in with a lighter color and kind of blend it out. Especially if you're using markers. This could be a really beautiful thing to do with some watercolors. Maybe I'll add some grass at the bottom. You want to make sure that you're either working on a crafts table that you don't really mind getting a little bit messy, or if you're working with pencil, then no worries because it will erase. But you can also put a piece of paper right underneath that will kind of catch any of the pencil that comes off of it. And this will also allow your grass to really look like it's coming out of the bottom of the ground and not that it's like hovering up in the air. That would be slightly weird if that's what grass did. And remember to layer everything. It's not that this is where the tree is. There's definitely some grass in front of the tree somewhere. So maybe you make it a bit shorter grass in front of the tree, but just something to make sure that the scene all comes together and then it's not grass, tree, grass. You want everything to kind of flow together. And if you'd like, you can also color the background. You can make this a sunset, you can make it a blue sky, you can add clouds or a bird, whatever you'd like to do. I'm just making it a really light blue, and I'm going to go horizontally this time to kind of contrast with the tree that has lines going vertically. So for the tree, I was doing this, and for this part, I'm going this way. And if you want to make a cloud, just lightly kind of sketch it in. If you're working on white paper, this will work really well. You can just do that and just make sure that you don't color in that space. You want to color around it. Once you get up to your tree, you want to be really light so that you don't kind of overpower the tree, leaves colors. You want to make sure that the sky looks like it is behind the tree. And the great thing about abstract art is that it doesn't really matter if your coloring lines are showing. In fact, it actually adds more character to it. You can make them slightly curved, like I'm kind of doing, or you can make them pencil straight, however you would like. And you want to stay as close to the border of the tree as possible, but you also don't want to overlap it. And I'll show you a trick a little bit later on how you can make it look very realistic that the tree is in front of the sky. By putting the clouds lower down in the sky, you're kind of suggesting that this tree is up on a hill. So everything in your painting can portray something to your viewer. So if your clouds are very high up in the sky, then it would definitely look like your tree is on a flat ground and that it's probably closer to like high noon or something. I think it's really important to just take some time every week to just relax and do something as simple as this. Because even though this might be something that you did something very similar in kindergarten or in preschool, it's still important to keep that kind of child in you and to keep refocusing on what's important in your life. And for many people, everyone needs to be creative. You want to make sure that you get all of the spaces in between the branches to make sure that the viewer knows that the sky does continue back there and that it doesn't just stop. This can also be a really great thing to do maybe if you're eating and you don't have any company with you at this time, because you just need one hand to do this, so you can kind of sip a smoothie with the other hand or something like that and just relax, or you can have a bowl of trail mix or something next to you. That's what I was doing this morning. I had some trail mix and I was coloring this. And this art could really take you anywhere from 5 minutes to hours and hours and hours. It all depends on how detailed you want it, which is really great about this, is that you can do it really fast, or maybe you want to just keep it in your sketchbook or on your table and just keep returning to it whenever you just need to recenter and kind of take a breather. All right, so once you have your sky all the way colored in, if you choose to do that, I'm going to take kind of my dark brown that I started with. I actually kind of need to sharpen it, so I'll go there in 1 second. Don't worry, that was a pencil sharpener. All right, I'm going to tap off that extra stuff. You want to go right around the edge of your tree, and it's okay if it looks a bit sketchy because all trees are not perfect. And you just want to kind of darken up the border right there. That kind of makes the tree stand out more in the foreground and pushes the sky into the background. You also can add hills there if you'd like. I'm going to leave it just like this since I've already put in my sky. And you can add little knots to your tree, kind of just make them look kind of natural, just like that. There you go. And you might not want to continue this all the way up the tree, maybe just add in some little hints of it here and there. Don't do it on every single branch. I want to thank all of you who came and watched this live. I really appreciate it, and it's so nice to be with you guys and know that we're all drawing together in this crazy time. Like I said earlier, I love seeing your creations. It makes me so, so happy. So please send me a picture. You can do that on Instagram or on Twitter. All of my links are down below. And you can also check out my Pinterest boards for more ideas, kind of like this one. I have folders or kind of Pinterest boards for science and for art and math. So whatever you like, it's all there for you guys to enjoy and to use during these times and forever. And just by adding these highlights, you really make your tree stand out a bit more in the foreground. And you're also adding some branches here and there to kind of add some more character to your tree. So I really hope everyone who is here enjoyed this live draw with me. If you did, please give it a thumbs up so that I know to keep creating these types of videos. I'll continue to make them every single week for you guys, and it'll be live at this time every Saturday. Be sure to subscribe so that you know of future posts and you don't miss anything. I'm pretty sure if you turn on the bell, you'll get notified of when I start going live, so you won't be able to miss this next week. And if you'd like, you can share this video with a friend who you think would enjoy it. I know there's a lot of people who like to draw, but don't often find the time for it. And so this kind of can help them just take a minute and relax and breathe and just focus on something that they do love to do, and they just often get kind of stressed and don't have the time for it. Sometimes we just need someone to do something with in order to kind of want to do it ourselves. I know that sometimes I would rather do an activity with one of my friends or a family member than be all alone and do it. I think I'm pretty happy with my tree now. And just like I said earlier, if you want to go back after you're done with your tree and add more, maybe you go pull it out of a bin like 3 years from now and you'll see it and you'll think, oh, I kind of want to add some more leaves to that. Or let me add a new art technique that I learned. You can do that. That's the great thing about this, is you can always keep adding. You could add birds, you could add a little owl on your tree, you could add a whole scene with like rabbits and deer and things down here, squirrels. You can do whatever you'd like. So I hope everyone enjoyed this live stream and have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye.